We are rolling.
Good morning. Welcome back to the conversation. This is Midlife Crisis Activities. This is our lifestyles and pop culture webcast, our daily shout out to the world. I'm your host, Patrick Russell, and over there is my very vivacious producer, Veronica. Together, we're here to lend our voices to the noise from a multi-generational perspective to help explain everything that's right and wrong in this world. Happy Thunder Thursday, as happy as it can be. I think the only news story that is on everybody's mind is that there's been an official invasion by Russia into the sovereign nation of Ukraine that took place last night, Thursday, early in the morning, I should say. February 24th is when we now see, and it's been a long time, to recognize sovereign nations pitting their conventional forces against each other. Well, it's still an overmatch. The Russian army outmatches the Ukrainian army not only 4-1, but they also outmatch them in missiles, in equipment, in air support, and in training. Absolutely. So I think the only question that really we would be asking ourselves is, well, what does this mean for us? And quite honestly, I don't think anything. I think Papa Joe Biden has made it very clear that he's not going to be committing any American troops to this war. Most Western European countries have said the same thing. The only thing that we've sent over has been bullets, missiles, and harsh language. And I think it's going to continue to be that way, at least as long as Putin doesn't get too greedy. I think it's clear that the world has written off and sacrificed Ukraine. And I think we put up a good show, a nice bluff at the poker table. But ultimately, Putin saw through it. And he called our bluff. And I believe that he believes that the math is clear. That the geopolitical equation shows that as long as he sticks to just Ukraine and tries not to venture any further to another country, Estonia, where does it end? Latvia, Belarus, at what point, Poland? At what point will it be before Russia's aggressions then will render a response by the Western European country and America as well? So from a younger generation's perspective, Veronica, do you believe that Papa Joe Biden will change his mind in any way in committing American troops to the Ukrainian war, or will it take Russia to get greedy and become a hog and not stop at Ukraine, but then also try to annex one of the other former Eastern Bloc countries that lies right on the western front of Russia? Yeah. Your thoughts?
Well, definitely, I think at this point we have to wait and see how is Russia acting. I was reading last night that the president of Ukraine wanted to start a conversation or somewhat a conversation with the Russia president, and he wouldn't
answer the phone.
I think
silence on the other end.
Yeah, so I think the way that particular situation is, it's handling it's not the right way, because you don't want someone just to come from another country and take over your country, no matter how small or how big it is, right? So I think this is just the beginning of something that can potentially be really bad.
So do you feel that Russia will continue on? They won't stop at Ukraine. And do you feel like the next country will be that red line where we will now have to get into the fight, and it has to be beyond just bullets and missiles in harsh language?
I think Russia is seeing that right now nobody's kind of putting their faith, their people, to help Ukraine. So depending on how everything evolves, probably he's going to move forward. I mean, we have talked about Russia and the way that they develop their country and the way they are and how they act towards the enemy per se, right? So I wouldn't be surprised that he will move forward with other countries, depending on how easy, because it has been easy for him, right, to just send troops and people and then kind of take over the country. I mean, and then
I agree exactly.
Quick question: where is the respect for the president of Ukraine? Where is the respect that he deserves as a people, as a country, that we all deserve to not invade and just take over something?
Well, that kind of power and respect comes at the end of a gun, and the president of Ukraine is outgunned 4-1 right now, and that's where his power and respect is really stemming from. And I actually agree with everything that you're saying, Veronica, because I think the final note is this: if we let Ukraine go, and we will, the question really now is, how long does Vladimir Putin need to wait before the uproar of the international community over the annexing of Ukraine back into the Russian Empire dies down. And now Putin feels like he can start it all over again with the next neighboring country.
Yeah.
I just think, keep in mind that Vladimir Putin has never won an actual honest election in Russia. They've all been rigged. And he's a relatively young man. He's not thinking in terms of years. He's thinking in terms of decades of his scale and scope of a grand geopolitical plan. And so if it just takes another 5 or 6 years after he takes over Ukraine for all of this to die down and for us to now move on with our lives, and now for him to now play the same geopolitical annexing game with the next country. You've got Belarus, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, before you get to Poland, right?
Yeah.
And so where does it end, especially if you're thinking not in terms of a couple of years, but in terms of a couple of decades, and Vladimir Putin doesn't think he's going anywhere. Guys, there's no right answer, there's no wrong answer, but there's definitely your opinion. Please, don't just subscribe to this channel, even though we will be doing this back and forth on a daily basis, but lend your voice to the show. It'll make it a whole lot more fun. Guys, remember, it doesn't matter what comes your way today. It doesn't matter what challenges or obstacles that you may face. You just need to remember one thing.
Give him hell.
Happy Thunder Thursday, everybody. Good luck, Ukraine.